everyone, it's Roberta
And this is Ryan, and this is the Midweek News.
on Art Blog Radio. Yeah, I didn't realize Instagram served you up stuff that was old, but apparently they do, because it
Yeah.
came on my feed at
hmm
Instagram. It was a month old, which I didn't notice. I read right through it. I was so excited that the Gorilla Girls were going to have a solo show, their first ever in Los Angeles. And I thought, oh, that's great for the news. And
hmm
marked it for the news. And today I'm looking at it and seeing that the show opened in November, like middle of November. So it's probably over at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting how the algorithms do that. It's not chronological like you would expect.
Well, it should be. They ought to. How hard would it be to add that into your algorithm? I mean, come on, you can write an algorithm for anything. So make it time sensitive, guys, not just whatever the buzzwords are that you want to feed.
Well, this is definitely the algorithm's plan.
What, to make me look foolish because I didn't
I
know
don't know
it
about
was
that.
a month old.
I'm not sure that was necessarily their intention. That was just kind of the outcome.
I don't even know if it's newsworthy or not, but I have 3 Christmas cards this year from artists. That's
Oh,
sort of unheard of.
oh,
Um,
that's nice.
in
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah. I
past,
like the rare one.
yeah, the one from RAIR is really excellent. A peace stove made out of 2.5 tons of drywall, a shag carpet for the olive branch, and a tire for the eye. You got to see it to believe it, and we'll run an image. But then this is a lovely little card from the Stocktons, and I can't really read what is graffitied onto it's a little tree, a stick
Yeah.
tree with ornaments on it. It's almost bent double, and the ornaments have some graffiti writing on it, but I can't read what it means. But it's Happy Holidays from the Stocktons. And
Cute.
then this came the other day from Beth Heinley. It's a collage with a poem with stamps, all kinds of stampings on the other side. Yeah, 3 Christmas cards that are art cards. I'm very happy to have them. Uh,
Nice. Those
it
look good.
reminds me of, this is not a Christmas card, but I have to show you this since we're doing cards. A Mother's Day card
Oh,
made
yes.
by my daughter Stella.
Oh, wow.
Fabric,
Stitched.
fabric stitched on. Each one is a little piece of fabric.
That's really pretty.
Isn't it pretty?
Yeah.
The things
Did she
people,
hand deliver that or did she mail that?
oh no, she hand delivered it. I mean, she lived locally, so that came
Yeah.
to me from her hands to mine.
I was curious of how expensive that would be to mail.
Oh, well, it's fragile. It's big. I don't know,
Uh-huh. Yeah. It's a
couple
couple
bucks.
dollars. Yeah.
Couple bucks. I love
Yeah,
homemade
cards are nice.
cards. I
Yeah,
love them.
me too.
Do you make them in your family, Ryan? Do you make homemade cards for birthdays and
We
events?
do. Yeah. That's definitely been a tradition of ours for a long time.
Cool. And what are your materials, your go-to materials? I mean, are you standard materials like paper and glue and that sort of thing, or do you go fabric and glitter and all over the place?
I I try to avoid glitter in craft projects as the person who is required to clean up. I encourage my people to clean up after themselves, but inevitably glitter goes everywhere. I just kind of have to I'm already planning the cleanup as I get everything out. You have to take all those things into consideration. And so glitter's not out, but it's certainly I'll show the other bins first of the other things they can do. I think there was a season of googly eyes.
Oh, those
So
are fun.
those had a phase. There's been other little tactile things, but generally it's paper and they'll sketch and use a bunch of markers and colors and sometimes they'll paint on there, like actually use like an acrylic on there, which is sometimes fun. We've done watercolor cards a few times,
Hmm.
things of that nature, but usually it's water and paint, water based, and then paper.
No,
Uh,
no potato stamps. Did you ever do potato stamping with your kids?
we've done a few of those things. Stamping is fine. Generally, the cards that we make, if it's for birthdays, we'll make them and just like leave them on the table for the person. But if they're being mailed, then we start thinking about the
Sides.
$12 card
Yes, yes. No, you can't
to
send.
mail.
Right.
Except for my mother, who will be less. There's certain people who love certain things, and you know what they like, and certain things that they don't like. We go and buy nice pre-made cards.
For mom. If mom
Yeah,
lets them. That's sensitive. That's nice.
Yeah, like those papyrus ones that you can get most places
Oh,
that are
like blank cards that have a
blank
pretty
cards.
image. Yeah, those are
Mm-hmm.
great. Those are great.
Yeah.
One way to
It's
get
also
some
from the
good
heart.
cards is to donate to the Sierra Club. They
Oh,
have
that's true.
really very, very nice cards. There's botanical drawing cards and there's animal cards, photos of animals. So those, and they're blank on the inside and they come with envelopes. They're really, I highly recommend that. Just make a donation to the Sierra Club, which probably could use your money anyway.
So they can cut down more trees and make all those greeting cards.
Oh, ouch. That
Just
was
kidding.
not where I was going
Oh,
with
that was
that. Ryan,
oh, that's funny.
it's
I
true.
enjoyed that. Yeah, and the other thing, like other places, is Trader Joe's is always a pretty classic, reliable, really affordable but fun, silly cards.
Yes,
Uh,
I
Not really
agree.
three-dimensional in any way, but if you need a fun little silly
Mhm.
cheap card.
So, and also today, trying to get into the holiday spirit. I don't do
Mm-hmm.
a Christmas tree anymore. Did it with the kids. That's over and done with. So I really don't put up Christmas paraphernalia, stockings or holly or little candles in the window, the ones you can get that are electric. None of that. But a long time ago, when I was still doing a tree, and I'm talking 5, 6 years ago, maybe, I decided I would buy some little teeny Christmas lights, colored ones and white ones. And I never used them. We didn't have a tree at that point, and they were sitting in a drawer. And I said, I'm going to haul these out and see if they still plug in and work. They did. And so they're sitting on my dining room table in a glass bowl, and they look kind of jolly. So that's it for
Nice.
my Christmas decorating.
That sounds good.
Lights in a bowl.
Lights in a bowl.
Mhm.
Obviously, Christmas is the 25th, and Hanukkah starts the 25th, and Kwanzaa starts the 26th. It's it is funny. We need to break these up. We should start having Christmas in the summer. And
Isn't there a song, Christmas in July or something like that? It's already
yeah,
pre-built into our program, Ryan.
yeah. The Scandinavians, they had that midsummer Christmas like festival. So
Do they? And so they dispense with a, December festival?
yeah, I mean there's still that now, but that I think how much of that is more recent in the last 100 years.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of holiday lights festivities. You don't need to have them in your house when you there's plenty of other places that are having them.
Yeah, I forget what street it is in South Philly that has lights across the street and all the houses have lights all over them. It's a real thing. People
Yeah.
go there and close the block and you walk and you talk to your friends and neighbors.
Miracle on South 13th Street.
I was
Yeah.
going to say 13th Street. Is it really 13th?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, that's up through New Year's Day, I believe. And I think they take them down then, or roughly.
Yeah, look on your Instagram, everybody. There's photos on Instagram of this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done it a few times. There's certain times of the year where we might have we've rented out Theater Exile and used that around that time of year, and so the lights will be hung and illuminated. Yeah, so I've seen them a few times. It's a fun little break from your day too when you're rehearsing and prepping and hanging lights.
What are the cross streets?
Morris to Reed, something like that. So it's like 1, 2, 3 blocks.
Cool. All right. Well, maybe we should meet people down there. Hey, you want to rendezvous down at 13th Street and see the miracle?
Oh my goodness, that'd be funny. And I was just reading, I don't know why this came up so late, but Zoom etiquette. Have you ever looked at Zoom etiquette or like because it has to do with personal space. So like when people are close talkers, they get in your business, you have this natural tendency to step back, especially if they're new people in your sphere of people. You keep that literal arms distance away. That's the safety zone. So you can run for it if needed. But I was reading something similarly that if you are sitting too close to your camera, people will have that same feeling like you're in that more intimate zone. Like you've come too close. You're a close talker, and you need to step back. Or so I got self conscious in another meeting. Like, what is the distance from my camera to my face? So it's interesting these subconscious and subliminal tones that we are messages that we're sending to one another, these nonverbal communication cues. It's really funny. So now I'm trying not to be self-conscious about my distance, but I'm trying to make sure that my distance, my camera looks similar to yours, so that I'm not sitting too close or too far away. Because then you might sense that I'm trying to be distant or stepping back in some way that I'm not engaged in the conversation. And
Well, I'll
um,
tell you what, Ryan, you have a spectacular background in your
oh,
Zoom. And so
thanks.
that alone creates distance in a way,
Oh, it's
and
true.
also puts you in a picture that is a broader picture than most people have when they're on Zoom, which is an enclosed space like a I mean, look at mine. I'm in a corner sort of, and I'm relatively close to the wall. And so you can see all the stuff that's on the wall close up, whereas
Mhm.
yours breathes a little, which is nice.
But yours has that personalized art. It's things you've got hung on your wall. It's kind of shows who you are. Mine feels like I'm announcing a parade. Like, who's the next float coming around,
It does feel like ABC News, I have to say
right?
that.
Yes. There should be a news ticker. Like, I thought about blurring my background, but the distance to the wall makes it kind of funny, and the disparate, yeah, there's a lot of distance there. So, digital background of the Philadelphia skyline, but I'm overlooking the rivers. It gives a nice distance, but it's just like, okay, coming up on Google, here's XYZ float, and that's
Well,
funny.
you could audition for that. I'm sure they're always looking for someone. And since you have all this experience of, you know, being on
Parade announcing.
camera with a great background, I think you could put that on your resume.
I figure with all the Zoom work that we've all been doing over the last few years, I feel like we could all get on TV without issues. Like, 1 million people are watching you. Okay, great. Well, you've gotten used to looking at yourself now, and
What
it's
does that
funny.
say about society and civilization? Holy moly, we're all
We've all
just
exhausted our 15 minutes of fame in
we
Zoom.
have. So let's relax about it. Wow.
Well, obviously, this is the holiday edition of the Midweek News, when there's not really a whole lot happening. City Hall is shut down, the stock market's closed, everyone's taking a break. So what are you going to do and spend your time doing? Well, you have to talk about your Zoom calls. Something on the level of 70, 80 plus percent of communication is nonverbal. So what is it that I'm saying? Like right now, you can't see my hands, right? So they say you should show your hands, show you're friendly and you're engaged. And
On Zoom, you're supposed to show your hands?
well, in person, you're supposed to show open hands and gestures and inviting. Like there's some really interesting YouTube video tutorials talking about people who use more hand gestures versus people who don't. You're far more likely to be viral than non, because your hand gestures are showing that you're engaged and you are a trusted, reliable source and competent in what you're talking about, but also shows that you're warm and inviting. It's doing
I'm
a lot of work.
sorry, trusted source. I have to X that one out. From hand gestures, you're a trusted
Sure,
source? No, I don't
sure.
think so.
Yeah. One of my favorite comedians, Eddie Izzard, she says you just got to keep confirming and denying things. So it doesn't matter what you say, just keep confirming and denying. this is what I'm thinking as well. So coming into 2025, thinking about body engagement and how people perceive me in just these random casual events and happenings. 20 whatever years ago, I was a flight attendant at one point, and I worked for a travel airline called Ryan International Airlines, and it wasn't based on my name, and it's not the Irish company. It's a Kansas-based company that did vacation packages and different things. So apparently, my route. I was based in Chicago at the time, so we'd fly from Chicago to Cancun or Chicago to the Dominican Republic or Zihuatanejo or some beautiful, gorgeous place. So it's terribly cold and freezing and windy, cold in Chicago. And it's January, and then you fly to Cancun. It's 75 degrees, and you're like, oh yes, take some of this. So that was my day. That was my week, and pretty sweet gig. I remember there was a couple times I would be sitting in a jump seat. So because we'd be running a fairly full staff, it was not a short crude flight. So there was like 5, 6 of us, and I'd be sitting in a jump seat, which means I'm facing another passenger. So because it was a fairly large plane, it was 757s, and so I would be facing a passenger, and there's a couple times people said, "Is everything okay?" to me. And I thought, why are you looking at me thinking, is everything okay? Am I exuding a concerned face or making you worry in some way? And a couple times. So I had to start being more conscious and aware of what's the face I'm making? Because it's like 4:30 it's 4:30 in the morning, right? These are very early flights. So you get there, you got plenty of time, blah blah blah. But yeah, so apparently at 4:30 in the morning, I've got that resting, worried bitch face, I guess. Yeah, everything's fine, everything's good. I mean, we're going to Cancun. What are you complaining about? What? I'm not worried. I don't know what my face was at 4:30. Worried. I think I was maybe half asleep still. You get used to that kind of time, but it's
That
still
is
pretty
another
early.
reason for you to be able to do a gig on ABC TV. You could do the early morning gig. You know, they have to get up at 3 a.m. or something like that. Well, you're used to that. You did that.
But then I had to be doing that worried breaking news. This just did. The freeway is shut down. You know, something fantastical like the reindeer have taken. They do that from time to time. I remember. I'm sure they could do that better with like AI CGI stuff now. Reindeer taking over the interstate and following Santa and all that funny stuff. But yeah, shall I get into my three things then?
Yes, please do.
Um, so obviously the holiday season is we are so deep in it, and it's great, but it's also time to move on. And on December 25th is the Washington Crossing Re-Enactment. So I think that one's hilarious to put on the note. I know some people have never seen that, which is fine. It's a funny thing. So there's different sides that you can see it from on the river.
You're going to tell them what this is, right? So what exactly they are reenacting.
Right. So George Washington crossed the Delaware River. And so there's actually a town called Washington's Crossing if you've never been. And so every year they do a reenactment on Christmas Day. And it is going to be from noon to 3 p.m. And I think there's diehards, but I think the weather will be dependent on how busy that is. But it's an interesting time to see something like that. And if you miss it this year, it'll be around next year.
So, and this commemorates, if I remember my Revolutionary War history, they're crossing into New Jersey, right? They're not fleeing from New York into Pennsylvania, are they?
Right, exactly. So this is the one when they had previously been defeated a couple times and they had to come back to Pennsylvania, and then they go back across to attack Trenton, and they did it under the cover of darkness and all of that kind of thing. But yeah, it's back to Trenton,
And then
and
marching to Trenton because it was
then
nowhere
marking
near
Trenton.
Trenton.
Right.
And then they surprised a fort. It was Hessian soldiers, you know, the mercenaries from
Mm-hmm.
Germany,
Mm-hmm.
and they immediately surrendered. And so that battle was won by George Washington. And then I think they marched down to Princeton and did a similar battle and won that one. And it was like they were on a roll. And that
Mm-hmm.
was considered a turning point in the war.
And it's getting later, and it's the holidays for them as well. They're thinking the same thing, and without their families, feeling a little bit disheartened. And then they come with a December 26th victory. So that's quite something.
Yeah, it is. It is. No, and the soldiers were their volunteers. They were voluntary. And they were on contract of some sort, whatever you call that when you're a voluntary soldier under contract. And that was up at the end of the year. So they were very demoralized, the leadership, because they thought they were going to lose all these soldiers because they couldn't afford to pay them and the war was going badly and no one was going to fund it. And so this was a huge turnaround when they had these victories and a lot of the soldiers re-upped and there was money to pay them and they could keep going. Complicated to run a war when you don't, 13 colonies, if you think about it, it's amazing that they did this.
Where the money came from, you're not printing your own money. You're not really a country. So it's an interesting thing.
Indeed, yes. Yes. There was a video series on Ben Franklin. I forget if it was on Apple TV or what it was, but that showed you exactly, well, fictionalized version of how Franklin wined and dined the French and got them to open their purses.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a complicated character. He's an interesting one. He's definitely one of those characters that people like to use for whatever purpose they like. Quote him for good, quote him for bad. He kind of fits both roles pretty easily.
My husband had to give a graduation speech at the University of Pennsylvania where he teaches, It was, I think, at the Wharton School, not the big university-wide conclave, although I may be wrong about that. Anyway, the one thing they said he had to put in his speech was a quote from Ben Franklin.
There you go. That's why did they need that?
I don't know, because
Okay.
everything is Ben Franklin in Philadelphia.
That's interesting. Is that true for all graduation speeches? Is that just a thing they stamp on there?
In Philadelphia, maybe, I don't know.
All right. Well, that's my first one. So if you're interested in that on Washington's Crossing, might be a lovely day along there. If you haven't been to New Hope in a while, that's a great reason to get up there. That area has changed a lot in the last few years, if you haven't noticed. Washington's Crossing Re-Enactment, December 25th, noon to 3. Coming up on Friday, December 27th, the Gardens After Dark at Philadelphia's Magic Gardens. They will do a bunch of colors and lights. That is a ticketed event. Could be really fun to see as well. That's coming up. There's a lot of lights. This one also helps support a local arts organization. It should still be really, really interesting. Lots of fun stuff. Great time for the holidays. That's Friday, December 27th from 5:30 to 8:30. I also I listen to that NPR show, Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, and one of the hosts and The Daily Show is Dulcé Sloan is going to be at Punchline Philly. So I don't usually talk about comedy, but this one looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And that's coming up also on the 27th and 28th, Friday and Saturday. That's at Punchline Philly. There are a few other really interesting shows that are happening. Disney on Ice is in town. There's a Cirque du Soleil show. Stomp is at Miller Theater. If you haven't seen Stomp, Stomp is surprisingly tons of fun, super popular, was on Broadway for a long time, sometimes has regular, shows that bounce in and out, is really enjoyable. So lots of really great shows still happening, maybe bigger shows, less specifically artsy underground independent shows that are not happening quite right now. But there's plenty of interesting, fun things to do. And hopefully you can get out and the weather's not too abrasive. It's supposed to be back to more normal temperatures coming up. So that's very exciting. And those are my 3 picks. So Washington's Crossing and Gardens After Dark and the Dulcé Sloan Show.
That's a nice list. I like that. I love Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. It's hilarious.
It is.
And the Daily Show, too. They're both good. We should mention coming up is on Art Vlog is the Roberta Awards. I think we've told you about this before, but every year we do a wrap up of our take on what happened during the past year, and we make some predictions, kind of pie in the sky, crazy Alice in Wonderland predictions of what's coming up, what we'd like to see coming up, and we have fun with it. So it's a fun piece. We also mentioned in passing a lot of the factoids that happened during the year, like people who left one institution and, comings and goings on the organizational circuit. And it's our one listicle of the year. Is that even a thing anymore? I guess outside of Forbes, which has lists. I'm not sure people still do end of the year lists anymore, but we do one. But it's our only one. We don't do lists other than this. Anyway, that's coming up. We hope to get that to you this Friday, the 27th. And so that you can peruse it over your leisure over the weekend and running up to the first of the year. And this is our last podcast in December and in 2024. Isn't that correct?
Right. The next will be released on the 1st.
On the 1st, January 1st. So, Mummers Parade. Oh boy.
Yeah, hopefully the weather is nice for that. Obviously, did there rain or shine, but that's more fun with shine.
Absolutely. And warmth, a little bit of warmth.
And warmth. Yes, I'll take the warmth. What's the forecast right now say? 52? Oh, wow.
Oh, that's balmy. That's a little too balmy.
It could be, as long as it's not rainy, because sometimes those come with rain. It looks dry. Fingers crossed.
Cool. All right. Well, do we have anything else we want to go out on, Ryan?
A high note. We should
on
go
a high
on
note.
A high note.
You want to sing a high note for us?
There you go. There it is, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, this is Roberta saying thank you for listening. Come back next time.
And this is Ryan, and this has been Art Blog's Midweek News. Thanks for listening, everybody. See you next year.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.